Vyomeva tatra purusho na vishiryate jasa. He. Sreyasam. All auspiciousness. Api. Also. Vibhu. The Master. Bhagavan. The personality of Godhead. Yata. Because. Asya. Of the living entity. Bhava, natural modes. Svabhava, own constitution. Vihitasya, performances. Sata, all good work. Prasidi, ultimate success. Dehe, of the body. Svadhatu, forming elements. Vigame, being vanquished. Anu, after. Vishiryamane, having given up. Vyoma, sky. Eva, like. Tatra, thereupon. Purusha, the living entity. Na, never. Vishiryate, becomes vanquished. Aja, due to being unborn. Translation. The personality of Godhead is the supreme master of everything auspicious because the results of whatever actions are performed by the living being in either their material or spiritual existence are ordered by the Lord. As such, he is the ultimate benefactor. Every individual living entity is unborn, and therefore, even after the annihilation of the material elementary body, the living entity exists exactly like the air within the body. The purport, the living entity is unborn and eternal, and is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 2.30, the living entity is not exhausted even though the material elementary body is vanquished. As long as the living entity is in material existence, actions performed by him are rewarded in the next life or even in the present life. Similarly, in this spiritual life, similarly in his spiritual life, also actions are rewarded by the Lord by the 5 kinds of liberation. Even the impersonalists cannot achieve the desired merging into the existence of the Supreme without being favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 4.11 that the Lord awards similar results as one desires in one's present life. The living entities are given freedom to make their choice. The Lord awards them accordingly. It is the duty of everyone, therefore, to worship devoutly only the personality of Godhead to achieve his desired goal. The impersonalists, instead of speculating or meditating, can directly execute the routine devotional service of the Lord, and thus easily obtain the desired goal. The devotees, however, are naturally inclined to become associates of the Lord and not merge in the spiritual existence as conceived by the impersonalists. The devotees, therefore, following their constitutional instincts, achieve the desired goal of becoming servitors, friends, fathers, mothers, or conjugal lovers of the Lord. The devotional service of the Lord involves 9 transcendental processes such as hearing and chanting, and by performing such easy and natural devotional services, the devotees achieve the highest perfectional results, far, far superior to merging into the existence of Brahman. The devotees are therefore never advised to indulge in speculating upon the nature of the Supreme or artificially meditating on the void. One should not, however, mistakenly think that after the annihilation of the present body there is no body by which one can associate with the Lord face to face. The living entity is unborn. It is not that he is manifest with the creation of the material body. On the other hand, it is true that the material body develops only by the desire of the living entity. The evolution of the material body is due to the desires of the living being. According to the desires of the living being, the material body develops. So from the spirit soul, the material body comes into existence, generated from the living force. Since the living being is eternal, he exists just like the air within the body. Air is within and without the body. Therefore, when the external covering, the material body, is vanquished, the living spark, like the air within the body, continues to exist and by the direction of the Lord, because he is the ultimate benefactor, the living entity is at once awarded the necessary spiritual body befitting his association with the Lord in the manner of Swarupya, equal bodily feature, Saloka, equal facility to live on the same planet with the Lord, Shasti, equal possession of opulence like the Lord, and Samipya, equal association with the Lord. The Lord is so kind that even if a devotee of the Lord cannot fulfill the complete course of devotional service unalloyed and uncontaminated by material association, he is given another chance in the next life by being awarded a birth in the family of a devotee or rich man, so that without being engaged in the struggle for material existence, the devotee can finish the remaining purification of his existence, and thus immediately after relinquishing the present body, go back to Godhead. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. In this connection, detailed information is available in the Bhagavad Sandarbha of Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhupada. Once achieving the spiritual existence, the devotee is eternally situated there, as already discussed in the previous verse. Prabhupada ki jai. So Prabhupada gives a very long purport here to this verse and covers many points, many points, very basic points of Krishna conscious philosophy and to more advanced understanding of Krishna consciousness. Now here, Lord Brahma is continuing, and he's saying, more or less, he says that the personality of Godhead, everything it comes from him. He is the master of everything auspicious, Shreyas. So the word Shreyasam is used here. Shreyas can mean long term. Prayas and Shreyas. Shreyas means long term auspicious. So, we're coming down out there. Hope you can all get out, whoever's coming. Is it up? My mic has to be louder. How loud do you want it to be? Do you want me to eat it? Okay. Well, wait a minute, we'll angle it here. Can't be too close. Yeah, so on all levels, no, that's too low. On all levels, Krishna is the benefactor. On all levels. Even there are those who are deputed agents to give the intermediary results of activities of the living entities. Ultimately, it comes from the Supreme Personality of God. And here is mentioned, whether it's on the material platform, whether it's in personal Brahman, whether it's in the spiritual world, on all levels. Therefore, Prabhupada actually quotes from the Bhagavad Gita 4:11, Ye tam mam prapajyante tam statava bhajamyaham mam vatnava nubatante manushapata savasaha. As they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects. Everyone follows my path in all respects. I remember Prabhupada giving an answer, actually giving a class. I think it was when he came in 1976. Every night he was giving class on Bhagavad Gita, and and that was at the temple, and in Melbourne, and then we were inviting guests to come. So the guests at the end of the class would ask questions, and one asked a question on this particular. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that everyone follows my path. But he was trying to make a point of impersonalism. It doesn't really matter what you follow. Yatamat tatapat. What is that? Yatamat tatapat. All paths lead to the same result. And Prabhupada answered. He said, yes. Everything ultimately comes to Krishna. but you quoted the second half, but you didn't say the first half. As they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. And so Prabhupada, so yes, ultimately Krishna is making a plan to bring the living entities back to him. But how quickly do you want to return? That is the question. That is up to you. Krishna wants you to come back, and ultimately this is going to be arranged. But it can take a long, long time. And he gave the example, just like in this city you have many skyscraper buildings, and 60, 70 stories. And so you can, if you want to go to see someone on the office of the top floor, you can take the stairs, and maybe by the end of the day you will reach the top level. But you can, or you can go on the elevator, and within a few moments you can reach the top floor. So I said, this Krishna consciousness is like that. It is the very quick way, the rapid. Take the elevator back home, back to Godhead. But there are those who don't want to go directly. They want to go in so many different ways. But here, what is pointed out and emphasized by Lord Brahma, that whatever way you choose, everything ultimately is coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is awarded by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is the strong point that is made here by Lord Brahma and emphasized and explained, elaborated here by Srila Prabhupada in his purport. And first of all, it is that the living entity is unborn and eternal and not exhausted, even when the material elementary body is vanquished. The eternality of the soul is very much stressed here. But nevertheless, I reward them accordingly. Due to forgetfulness of Krishna, we are here, and it is because of the presence of the soul that we have a body. And it's not that the body is just coming together by itself, and then we come into existence, and this Prabhupada elaborates and explains later on in his purport. And then when they're the end of the body, that's the end of our existence. And many people believe that. Many people believe that. I was a believer of that before I became a devotee. I used to think that, now we're living, and then we'll die, and that's it. We cease to exist. So we better make the most of it. We better just enjoy, have fun, because who knows when it's going to be over. So there are a lot of people who think like that, but Prabhupada is saying no, and here it is emphasized, no. And Krishna says the same thing in the second chapter, starting from the 11th and 12th verse, and from many verses. And this is quoted here in verse 30. Na tu evaham jatuna samnatam me janatipa na chavana bhavisha savevaya mataparam. Starting from 12. Krishna says, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. So he is explaining to Arjuna. So Arjuna was declining from performing his duty. So why are you so concerned about the body? You are speaking like a learned man, but you are mourning for that which is not worthy of grief. So the wise lament neither for the living nor the dead, meaning the material body. But we see in the world how everyone's so attached. They're very attached to living, and when the death comes, they're very much affected. But Krishna points out, no, the soul is eternal. We'll continue on. No, the soul can never be destroyed. And the example is given here of air. So this is a basic philosophy, basic Krishna conscious philosophy. The air exists outside, the air exists inside. When the body ceases to exist, then the air still exists. So too the soul, when our bodies cease to exist, we will still exist. It's just logical. But there are some people even getting good advice. They can't accept it. Some people want to put forward some ideas with the best intentions, but whether that's going to be helpful, even it can be very detrimental. I've spoken about this many times. There's that one saying, it's kind of taken different versions over many hundreds and maybe even thousands of years, that the path to hell, or sometimes is described, or the path of destruction is paved with good intentions, or sometimes the path to hell. Some attribute it to biblical. It's a biblical saying. The path to hell is paved with good intentions. So someone may be well-meaning and give you some advice, but it may be totally off, may be totally wrong. You yourself may think, of course, with best intentions, you're always thinking for your own welfare, that this is the best thing to do, but it may be the worst thing to do. We don't know, because we're in ignorance. We're in ignorance. So we get good, someone's trying to give good advice, but it's not good advice. We need proper advice. And then there is when good advice is given, we don't want to take it. So there's all different situations. Someone wants to give advice, but it's not the proper advice. And then when someone actually gives good advice, we don't want to take that good advice. It reminds me of a story that's told by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He says there was a king, and he had many children, and there were many sons amongst sons and daughters, and the princes, especially he got the princes and the princesses, he got some monkeys in so that they could play with the monkeys. There were young monkeys and old monkeys. So he got some monkeys in, and he got some sheep in, and the princes especially used to like playing with the sheep and riding on the sheep and like that. Amongst the monkeys, there was one old monkey who was very wise, very learned, and he was learned in the Shastras. And very wise, all the different Shastras, very wise. And he used to try to teach the young monkeys these Shastras, but the young monkeys, they just want to play around like young monkeys. They didn't really want to hear. But the old monkey wanted to educate the young monkey, but they just didn't want to hear. But then he just noticed at one time, that that the princes ride on the sheep and have fun, and the king was very fond of these monkeys because they were providing so much pleasure to his boys. But then he also noticed that the sheep, especially one sheep, used to like to sneak into the palace kitchen. And when the cooks, while they were cooking, used to steal, sneak the food off. Right from when they were cooking, they'd look around and the sheep would come in and run out with it. And then the cooks used to chase after it and grab whatever they could and beat the sheep and get it out of the kitchen. Used to run amok in the kitchen. So the old wise monkey observed that. And then he called all the young monkeys together. And he said, "We have to leave this place immediately." And the young monkeys said, "Are you crazy? What? We have to go and live in the forest. That's our natural habitat anyway." "No, we don't want to go and live in the forest. We've got it good here." We got it really good here, We get fed all the delicacies, all the beautiful fruits. We just get whatever we want. We're the pet monkeys of the king and the princes love us. Well, we want to go out and live in the forest. We'd think that, old age, you're suffering from some sort of dementia or something like that. No. Then he said, "Why do you want to?" He said, I'll tell you why. Because I've observed that one of these sheep goes into the kitchen and steals the food and gets chased out, and the cooks get sticks and that, and they beat the sheep. And then one day, the cook, without really being mindful, when that sheep comes in, he's going to pick up one of the sticks that are firewood from the fire that's lighting the oven. It's going to have fire on it. He's going to beat the sheep, and the sheep is going to the wool's going to catch fire, and that sheep will run into the horse stable where the king's prize horses are. And to put the fire, it's going to roll around in the hay. to put the fire out. It's going to roll around in the hay, and when it rolls around in the hay's going to catch alight. And when the hay catches alight, then the horses will get caught in the fire and burn. Some of them will die, some of them will escape, but those who escape will get severely burnt. And the king will be very upset. My horses, they're burnt. And he'll call the royal veterinarian. And the veterinarian will tell him that, the best treatment for burnt horse flesh is tallow. Tallow, you get an ointment, and one of the essential ingredient is tallow. And the best tallow is monkey tallow. Monkey tallow. And so we've got to get some monkey tallow. And so the young monkey is listening to all this. That's crazy. It's a far-fetched story. What are the chances of anything like that happening? So they just shrugged him off, just continued to play. But sure enough, one day that happened. The cook chased out the sheep, picked up a stick from the fire, beat him on the back. The wool caught fire. He ran into the barn, tried to put the fire out. Hay caught fire. The horses were burnt. The king summoned his veterinarian. He said exactly that thing, that we need the monkey tallow. So the king was, what to do? We've got the monkey. We have to deal with this immediately. So, but he knew the monkeys, they were the pets of the boys. The boys were really tough. And he said, take the boys away for a little while. Kill those monkeys and get the tallow, because my horses are far, far, more precious than those monkeys. So, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he tells this story. Very famous story. And some of you from the Mayapur Gurukul might remember that these stories are told quite often at the Mayapur Gurukul. And so he says that, even when someone gives you actually good advice, still you're so foolish you don't want to take it. And all sorts of dire consequences. And then there's it reminds me of another story. In a similar vein, because then there's those who give you advice but it's not good advice, disastrous effects. And then there's some who give you good advice, but because you're in ignorance you don't know either way, but then you're not going to follow it. And then there's those who just won't follow any advice at all, no matter it's good or bad. They just don't care. They think of ways of avoiding following, and they're very unscrupulous and devious. And so this leads me to the story of what are the names of those two? The story of Lalu and Kalu. Have you heard of Lalu and Kalu? Lalu and Kalu, when they were just young boys, they were the sons of a grocer. So the grocer wanted to bring them up and bring them into the business, so they had to learn a lot of things, especially mathematics and and how to weigh things and scales and all that, all that type of thing. So he wanted to bring them up, so he got all these tutors in to teach them. But these were very naughty boys. They were very lazy. They just didn't want to learn, and they purposely, consciously didn't want to take any good instruction. And they obstructed the instruction. They ran off or were just sleeping, pretending to be sleeping. And so no one could teach them. So he tried so many different tutors, and then he offered a huge amount of money. He offered half his business to anyone who could come and teach his boys at least the basic things, especially counting numbers. They couldn't even learn counting numbers. And so there was an old Brahmana. He was very poor, so he thought, well, there's a good opportunity. I'll offer my services. And so he came in. So the grocer warned him, they're very difficult, they're naughty boys, and they've got some very bad habits. And I know someone told me that they're just young boys, they're smoking cigarettes and everything like that, sneaking off. And I've tried to do something about it, but they just won't pay any heed. Anyway, so the crafty Brahmana, though, he was very clever. So the father told them that you have to always be with your teacher, day in and day out. You can't go away. You have to live together, and you have to learn. So they were going out one day walking, and then there was a cow walking, and then the Brahmana said to Kalu, "How many legs has that cow got?" And so Kalu said, "Oh, 1, 2, 3. Then Lalu put his hand over his brother's mouth. "Oh, don't go any further. He's just tricking us to learn counting." So the Brahmana was thwarted. So then he tried many ways, but they still were very sneaky and very devious. They just like to sneak off and play, and everybody catch them and bring them back. He had them inside, and then they pretended to go asleep, and they were snoring very loudly. Kalu and Lalu. Snoring very loudly. And so then he thought that, well, I'll take a little rest as well. So when he took rest, they were only pretending, so then they got up and they went out. They were sitting outside smoking cigarettes. And so when they finished smoking cigarettes, they came back in and pretended to be asleep. But then he woke up, and then he smelled all this cigarette smell everywhere. So he went sniffing around. Oh, there's cigarette smoke and smell. Where's it all coming? Went outside, it's in here too. And he went to the boys, over here. And he smelt them, and he especially smelt their hands. These boys have been smoking again, so he woke them up. You boys have been smoking. Didn't I tell you can't do that? But we haven't been smoking. How could we have been smoking? We went to sleep before you, and you woke us up. How on earth could we have smoked? And, well, I'm smelling it on your hands. You've been smoking. How's it possible? We were asleep. And then Kalu said, I think what's happened is that someone's come in with some cigarettes and smoked the cigarettes using our hands. And he's taken turns for each of us. He smoked a cigarette in Lalu's hand, and he smoked a cigarette in my hand. Maybe he's a boy like us who doesn't want to have that smell of smoke on his hands. So the Brahmana, of course, didn't believe a word they said. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he tells this story. He said that, here's an example, someone trying to give good instruction. This is like the spiritual master trying to give good instruction, but the ignorant fool doesn't want to take it and makes up all sorts of very sometimes devious excuses not to take the good instruction. There's all sorts of levels like that. But these are basic instructions here that are for the benefit of everyone, and then Krishna arranges things that are all auspicious. And the one thing is that Krishna gives all results to activities. Now it is said that we are here because of our desire, but life becomes complicated by our activities, and especially by sinful activities, by karma. And there's all different levels of karma, technically it's called prarabdha and aparabdha. Some karma that is manifesting, and aparabdha not yet manifesting. And in the aparabdha there's bija, there's seeds. You perform some activity and they're dormant, lying as seeds, not yet manifest. This is called aparabdha. They're lying as seeds. And then there's that level, and then there's the seeds that are just about to fructify. This is still in the aparabdha. So our life becomes more complicated. First of all, we're here because of our separatist desire, and then it becomes complicated by our activities. And when we go into very sinful activity, well, any activity, whether it's a pious activity or impious activity. So therefore there's aparabdha, bija, and then there's a stage of the seed which is just about to give you a reaction, and then there's current, prarabdha, you're getting reactions. And then how you react to those reactions will give you future. And there's so much karma, and there's so many lives, that it can't all fit into one life. Your karma it has to go one life, and it goes over many lives. So therefore everything becomes very, very complicated. But of course, this is all arranged by the Supreme Personality Godhead. If one is fortunate, has a good association, takes good instruction, takes up the path of devotional service, then one can be, and here actually there's one verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Kechik Kabalaya Bhakta Vasudeva Parayana Agam Dulbante Katsniya Nihanam Ibavaskara. Jiva Goswami, he explains that there are all different levels of devotional service, and especially those who are very advanced devotees, all these levels of karma are gone. But he said even someone on the beginning platform can actually annihilate the karma. Of course, love of God, that's another level. But as far as the karma, even the beginning levels can completely eradicate the karma. So such is the benefit of devotional service. And there are those, of course, who want to elevate to Brahman. But even the Brahman, to go to Brahman, it is arranged by Krishna. Krishna makes arrangement, Kamana, Daivanetrina, all these activities and reactions, whether it's material reaction or some arrangement to go to Brahman that is arranged by Krishna. And here Prabhupada goes on to talk about spiritual, when one gets spiritual, benedicted by the Supreme Lord in a spiritual way, goes to the Vaikuntha. One can go to and have sarupya, have the bodily features, just like I was given in a class at Rupa's place the other day. We're talking about Uddhava, how wonderful the devotee is, and he looks just like Krishna. Can have the same bodily form as Krishna or Vishnu as a type of liberation. Salokya, of course, living on the same planet of the Lord, that's a benediction. And Shasti, equal opulence, we live in a very opulent situation, equal association, samipya. So these are spiritual reactions, and you can put it in that way. So material reactions, elevating to Brahman, spiritual reactions on all these different levels, all these things are awarded by the Supreme Personality of God. So in that sense, the Lord is auspicious. He is supremely auspicious. Whatever happens to you is arranged by the Lord, and ultimately it is auspicious because the Lord giving you the reactions to your activities as they surrender. I reward them accordingly as your desire. I think Bhagavad Gita was mentioning the other day that there's a combination, your desire and what you deserve. So Krishna is viewing all the activities. So you have desires, but what do you deserve? And so this combination, Kamana, Daivanetrina, that is given to you by Krishna. So either it's coming in the material sense, it's coming in the form of elevation to Brahman, or is in the spiritual world. All these different levels of liberation can be given, and it's all there arranged by Krishna. So what Brahma is pointing this out. Therefore, there are no other causes of the phenomenal or numeral. We'll jump forward, but appropriate. That he says further on, there are no other causes. It is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the cause of all this. Now, one can be intelligent. And Prabhupada, I was going back to Prabhupada's class when he was answering that question of that boy who was asking that question, everyone follows my path. And Prabhupada said, yes, as they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly, everyone follows my path. So Prabhupada said, yes, you can go rapidly, make advancement rapidly, and Prabhupada emphasizes and he recommends this, or you can go slowly. So the intelligent person, he picks to go quickly. Why delay if you've got the opportunity? So this is the beauty of Lord Chaitanya Sankirtan movement, that we've got the opportunity to go very, very rapidly on the path of devotional service. And I remember at my initiation, Prabhupada actually said, now all you new initiates, you have to, Om Apavitra Pavitra Va, the Yagya was going on, and Madhavisa was there. And in those days we didn't know that much Sanskrit or what the meanings of verses yet. And so Madhavisa asked Prabhupada, he chanted this verse, Om Apavitra Pavitra Va. He chanted that verse and he said, what is the meaning of this verse, Prabhupada? Now Prabhupada explained, purified or unpurified, if one surrenders to the lotus-eyed Supreme Personality devoted, he will go back home, back more or less, I'm paraphrasing, but more or less he said like that. And then he said that, and all you boys and girls are getting initiated today, you have to become purified as quickly as possible. Go back home at the end of this life. Don't toil unnecessarily in this material world. Take up the path of Krishna consciousness and make rapid advancement. Rapid advancement. So someone who's intelligent wants to make a rapid advancement. Well, why go slow when you can get there quickly? So this is what Prabhupada is emphasizing here. So I'll read this verse again. The personality of God is the supreme master of everything, auspicious because the results of whatever actions are performed by the living being in either the material or spiritual existence are awarded by the Lord. As such, he is the ultimate benefactor. Every individual living entity is unborn, and therefore even after the annihilation of the material elementary body, the living entity exists exactly like the air within the body. Hare Krishna. Does anyone have a question or comment? Yes.
There's so many subtle things that we can't shake off ourselves, obviously, which may try to depend on Krishna to become purified. So what to do is it just rather keep on trying and be patient, or you want to up again, you want to overcome simply noticing yourself that aren't to surrender. So you need some tips.
Well, yes, Utsaham Nisyanta, Rupa Goswami gives that. And patience, perseverance, enthusiasm. These qualities we have to practice in the performance of our devotional service. We have to be patient. We have to be determined, perseverance, and we have to be enthusiastic. Always. And one time in Hari Suri was done. One time in Hawaii, someone asked Prabhupada how he was able to. He said just by enthusiasm and perseverance, he actually said that, I was able to spread this Krishna consciousness all over the world. So he said, you have to be like that. There's that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when he was leaving the world, he called his disciples and he said that after I depart, many of my disciples will leave after I depart. But then he looked around and he said, but you should stay. You should stay. So, through thick and thin, somehow or other, don't go away. Nama parada yuktanam nama neva haranchikam. There's many verses that emphasize this point. I remember one time one devotee came to me and said that, I'm committing so many offences in the chanting. I bet I just stop chanting. Just committing too many offences. And I quoted Nama Parada Yuktam. This is the verdict of this. No. Continue chanting. Persevere. Of course, with the mind of avoiding the offence. Always keep in mind that you are going to avoid the offences. You're working on avoiding the offences. All of us are offensive. In coming to the world in a conditioned state, we've got to be offensive. We can't help ourselves because we've got envy. Where there is envy, there's going to be pride, and there's going to be envy. First of all, there's ignorance. Then there's pride, and then there's envy. And when there's envy, and Prabhupada says this in the Bhagavatam, where there is envy, there will be offense. Because due to envy, you will offend someone. So unless we're totally free from envy, we're going to be offensive. So whatever we are, we're offensive, or we haven't got I think it was Giri Hari gave the class, inability, it was Charanaravinda was talking about, inability to follow the vows of devotional service, or whatever reason, struggling with the, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur talks about these things, struggling with the senses, struggling with continuous devotional service. Still, we have to persevere. That is the advice given in the Shastras by the Acharyas, just whatever. Now, Prabhupada said that, and Lord Chaitanya says, two things: always chant and strong association. These two things are essential. Chanting. I always remember in the Vrindavan days, Hayagriva wrote his book Vrindavan Days, and he tells about he'd been away, he'd left Krishna consciousness for a while. He tells about going to see Prabhupada when he was staying at Radha Damodar Temple. And so when he was in with Prabhupada said, so what's been the difficulty? And he said, Prabhupada, I think there's just too many rules. I can't follow all the rules. He said, no. He said, it's too difficult to follow all these rules. So he said, no, they're easy, just that you stop chanting. When you always chant, then it is very easy. But when you stop, then it becomes difficult. So there's so many examples you can give, and there's so many instructions. But that's generally the principle, that we always persevere, and to become, to get the result, to build up your resolve, you need good association. Always keep yourself in association, and try to seek out that nice association, all levels of association, but somehow or other. Because when one is down, then generally they won't want association, spiritual, they want. But no, always keep in mind that you have to have that association somehow or other. Get some association, and always keep chanting and get that association. Two things. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said these two things are very, very important. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Nittai Go Premanandi, Hari Hari Bo.